This is the all-new Audi A3 sedan, and as a designer we are really proud of the result because we have been putting a lot of work into that car. And let me begin with the front end of the car, because we see the front as the face, and therefore it's really important to give the car character and to give it personality, so to say. And if we start with the front, we have to talk about the single frame grille. And as you can see, the single frame grille has now a honeycomb pattern for the very first time in the A3. So a very three-dimensional structure that gives a lot of depth and a lot of quality to the front appearance of the car. And at the same time, the grille sits very low as facing down to the road, so the whole car hunkers down and has more of a dynamic approach and a dynamic attitude towards the road. And as you can see, the grille creates also the architecture of the front. You have all the lines coming from the corners of the grille, creating a three-dimensional sculpture, as well as from the rings. There's a kind of negative power dome, we call it, that continues over the hood and stretches the front of the car. Another highlight is the headlight of the A3 sedan. Let me show you this. The headlight has a really sharp-cut shape and is really bold in its expression, as you can see, but we also have a digital daytime running light that can vary. Whether you choose a base car or an S-Line, you have different daytime running light graphics in the front, so it's an absolute innovation for our A3 sedan. Now coming to the side, the main feature on the body side of the A3 sedan is the shoulder line that runs all the way, stretching the car while still being compact. And the most important thing is dividing into light and shadow. So a very light shoulder and a very dark body side that is modeled in a really nice, precise way to give it a lot of three-dimensional sculpture. Furthermore, you have the rocker that extends towards the rear of the car, runs into the rear bumper, bringing a lot of wedge and dynamic into the side. As a designer, we would normally always pull the wheels out as much as possible to give the car a really proper stance. We have done that in a way, but instead we have pushed the body side in as much as possible. So we have a lot of three-dimensional movement going on here, creating a sculpture that pronounces quattro in a very new way. Then we have a really shallow cabin with a sloping coupe-like roofline that is also very compact sitting on the car, is pushing the car forward. So all in all, a body side with a really sporty, dynamic appearance. The rear spoiler creates a better aerodynamic drag efficiency, while my personal highlight of the rear are the lights. Vertical stripes on the outside and the horizontal stripe on the inside create a really nicely crafted element. And together with the rear diffuser, they emphasize the width of the car. All in all, these elements make for a really sporty and fresh looking sedan.
Now let's talk about the interior of the A3. We have a sketch here with which I can describe you the interior perfectly. We had two main goals. We wanted to follow the car's sporty nature, and we wanted to integrate the new digital content. We wanted to have a completely different layout from the passenger to the driver. That's why we used the air vents to create on the passenger side a very horizontal feeling, diving in from the side right into the steering wheel. And on the steering wheel we have a very cockpit-like feeling by putting the air vents on top of the IP. This separates the passenger from the driver. Coming from the sketch, we now see the interior in the reality. You can see all the proportions and dimensions. The air vents on top that really create this immersive cockpit, and then the very wide passenger section that creates this super slim dashboard. In between we have the black panel element that contains the MMI touch, and we really designed it in a way that it appears to be super thin. We have the glossy surface that goes all around the corner. Coming to the center console, we follow the same principle. We have a nice trim part that surrounds the black panel area. Inside the black panel area we have the new shifter design. And this is a shift by wire, which enabled us to make it very small. And this enables us to give a new spacious feeling in the center console. For example, the storage unit in the front where you put your mobile phone. Altogether, the driver-oriented cockpit of this car fits perfectly to the sporty exterior of the A3 sedan.
If we take a look at the user interface of the new A3, we see that this is a whole new car generation. In front of the driver is the fully digitalized cockpit. In the center, the 10.1-inch touchscreen. Then, in addition, for the first time in the A3, we have the head-up display. We know the head-up display from larger premium cars. Now also a full-size windshield head-up in the A3. Underneath this digital cockpit, we have a variety of functions which are still on hardware keys. For example, up here is the climate control. Underneath, the switch bar with a variety of driving functions, the drive select button, the parking functions, and then in the middle console, the volume switch. If you go back up to the touchscreen, we have all the infotainment functionality up here, and the interaction with the MMI is only with touch, and of course with a new generation of speech, which I can start here at the steering wheel. In the center screen, as I said, we have the touch screen. Basically, everybody knows how to use a map on their smartphone or on a tablet. The pinching gesture for the zoom and the swiping gesture for moving in the map. Now, if I look back into in the cluster instrument, as most Audis have it, the view button for changing from a big map to a small map. In addition, now we have 3 different styles for the cluster instrument, so you can just adjust it the way you want it, so everybody feels comfortable with it. So often a car is not only used by one person, but by the whole family. That's why we integrated personal profiles. So depending on who enters the car with the cell phone, the Audi knows who is entering, and it will adjust the car just the way this person left it. For example, the color of my ambient light, the setting of my cluster instrument, the position of my seat, and so on. The second big advantage is also I can take my personal profile to the next A3. So if I change my car, I just add a user or me as a user, and then the car takes over the settings as I had them in my last A3.